Think about the last time you saw an IV bag hanging beside a hospital bed. We trust it completely. It delivers life-saving fluids, antibiotics, sometimes even chemotherapy. But what if the risk isn't coming from the drug, but from the bag itself? Today, we're talking about the FDA's new guidance on nitrosamine leachables in infusion bags, what the risks are, how these impurities form, and what testing strategies we must adopt to keep patients safe. This story actually started years ago with the nitrosamine crisis in drug substances. We saw recalls in ARBs, metformin, and other products, mostly tied to API manufacturing. But then investigators noticed something unexpected. Even when synthesis looked clean, nitrosamines were still appearing. The hidden source, packaging materials. That discovery shifted attention away from just chemistry and toward materials science, especially tubing and infusion systems. So what exactly are nitrosamines? Chemically, they form when amines react with nitrosating agents like nitrites, especially when heat, moisture, or time are involved. The problem is their potency. These compounds are classified as probable human carcinogens, and we detect them at parts per billion levels. That means even extremely tiny amounts can matter. So the margin for error is very small. Now let's look at infusion bags themselves. At first glance, they seem like simple plastic containers. But in reality, they're complex, multi-layer chemical systems. They're made of PVC, polyolefins, elastomers, plus stabilizers, antioxidants, and adhesives. Each of these materials can contain reactive chemicals. And when these materials stay in contact with liquid drugs for months, chemicals can slowly leach into the product. The formation process follows a predictable pattern. First, you have precursors, amines from polymer additives and nitrites from raw materials. Then you add stress, heat from sterilization and moisture during storage. And over time, these ingredients react. Nitrosamines form and gradually migrate into the drug solution. So even if your drug formulation is perfect, the packaging environment can still create impurities. Now here, why this matters clinically. Nitrosamine risk isn't about one exposure, it's about cumulative dose over time. Think about ICU patients receiving daily IV antibiotics, infants on parenteral nutrition, cancer patients going through repeated chemotherapy cycles. These patients may receive dozens of infusion bags. So even tiny levels can add up, increasing long-term cancer risk. That's why this issue is taken so seriously. The FDA's guidance sends a very clear message. Don't assume packaging is inert. Prove it. Manufacturers must perform risk assessments to evaluate potential nitrosamine formation. They must conduct extractables and leachables studies. And they must implement control strategies with defined safety limits. So packaging is no longer just a procurement decision. It's now part of regulatory compliance. Practically, testing follows a stepwise approach. First, screening raw materials to identify amines and nitrites. Then running exaggerated extractable studies to simulate worst-case conditions. And finally, real-world leachables testing on the finished drug product. For analysis, LC-MS is typically required because we're measuring down to very low parts per billion levels. Sensitivity and method validation are absolutely critical here. This challenge isn't owned by just one department. Procurement must qualify suppliers carefully. Quality teams must strengthen change control. Packaging engineers must select safer polymers. And formulation teams must evaluate compatibility early. The companies that act proactively will prevent recalls. The ones that react late may face regulatory action and patient risk. So here's the key takeaway. Packaging is not just a container. It's part of the drug product ecosystem. Nitrosamines have taught us that risks can come from unexpected places, even from the materials meant to protect the medicine. If we apply science proactively, test thoroughly, and design smarter packaging, we protect patients before harm ever happens. And ultimately, that's what pharmaceutical quality is all about. Thank you.